the Darsanamala of Narayana Guru. This text is on Vedanta, but this is not meant for studying what is Vedanta. It is meant for those who have already studied Vedanta. It doesn't mean that you won't get any idea about Vedanta by going through this text. You will get some idea, but it won't be a systematic one. Vedanta teaches Advaita, non-duality. How this non-duality is perceived from 10 different perspectives. Each perspective we perceive one and the same non-duality. That is how this work is structured. If non-duality is a very beautiful building like the Notre Dame Cathedral, it is a very beautiful building, and if you go there, you can take pictures of it from many angles. Whichever be the angle you take a photograph of it, you get the picture of the same building, but the pictures will be different. Likewise, non-duality is a very beautiful building. You take photographs of it from 10 different angles. Each photograph is a darsana here. Darsana means vision. Take it as a photographic vision. Like photographic vision, this is another kind of vision, that is all. 10 different perspectives or visions are adhyaropa. Adhyaropa means that something is superimposed. What is not there is seen as if it is real. For example, in the case of Vedanta, the world is taken to be unreal, but that world is taken to be real here in this vision. And if such a real world is there, who made it? How it is made? Such problems arise. But at the end of the chapter, it is said, Dhanadiva vado yasmat pradvirasayedidam jagat sabrahma sadashivo vishnu sapara sarvayeva sa. That means just as a tree grows out of a tiny seed, Dhanadiva vado yasmat pradvirasayedidam jagat. In the beginning, the tree was hiding in the seed. In the same way, this entire world was hiding in the seed-like reality. And what is that reality? Sabrahma, Sasivo, Vishnu. That reality itself is what we call Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer, Shiva, the destroyer, and above all these, Sapara. That reality itself is the transcendental reality. Sabara Sarvayeva Saha. Everything indeed is that reality. So by the end of the chapter, we come to a purely non-dual state. In the same way, at the end of every chapter of this work, we see the same kind of non-dual vision. The second chapter ends with Sarvam hi Sachidanandam Neha Nanasti Kinchana Epashyadika Naneva Mrityor Mrityum Sagachati. Sarvam hi Sachidanandam. Everything indeed is Sachidananda. Neha Nanasti Kinchana. There is no multiplicity here. Epashyadika Naneva Mrityor Mrityum Sagachati. Those who perceive multiplicity here, they go from death to death. By the end of the third chapter, which we are studying now, it is said, Egam Satyam Nadvidiyam Satyam Bhadi Satyavat Shalaiva Shivalingam Nadvidiyam Silpinagradam. Shalaiva Shivalingam Nadvidiyam Silpinagradam. Shila itself is Shivalinga. Rock itself is that appears as Shivalinga. So Shivalinga is an effect in the place of the world. Rock is the reality that is in the place of Brahman. So Brahman itself is that appears as the world, just as rock itself is that appears as Shivalinga. Shaleva Shivalingam na dvitiyam silpina kratam. No, a second one is made by a sculptor. And in the fourth chapter, which we will be going to next There is no such verse at the end. That is because it is Maya Darsana. The entire Maya is something to be negated. So there is no conclusive verse as just like in the other verses. In the fifth verse, we see the same. Yad bhasade tadadhyastam anadhyastam na bhasade yadadhyastam tadasat pyanadhyastam tadeva sadeva tat. That sadeva tat is a variant form of Om Tat Sat. Yad bhasade tadadhyastam. That appears shiningly. That is superimposed. Anadhyastam na bhasade. The reality that is not superimposed. Anadhyastam na bhasade. It never shines apparently. Yadadhyastam tadasat. That which is superimposed. That is unreal. Avi anadhyastam sadevatat. Then what is that reality that is anadhyastam, not superimposed? Sadevatat. That itself is what is referred to as Sat. Likewise, every ending of each verse is something very, very substantial and going to the depth of non-duality. The first half of this work, to my understanding, Rajguru says it, first three as Sat, the next four as Chit, and last three as Ananda. Another perspective that I see in the structure of Darsanamala is the first half of the work is relating the entire world, Prakriti, with the absolute reality. The second half relates each individual being with the absolute reality. Narayana Guru himself in his Deva Chindanam makes the reference to these three. Jiva, Jiveshwara, Jagat, Bheda, Rahida, Advaita, Tejase. To that non-dual effulgence, I pay my prostrations, which has no duality between Jiva, Ishvara and Jagat. Jiva means a living being. Ordinarily, religious people understand Jiva as soul or the life principle in each of us, but the word Jiva is derived from the root Jiv, which means Pranadharane. Jiva Pranadharane. That means Pranadharana means to breathe. So a living being that exists by breathing, that is called Jiva. So I am a Jiva. Every one of you is a Jiva. It is wrong to say that I have a Jiva. So individual living being, Ishvara or the Absolute, Jiva Ishvara Jagat. Veda Rahita Advaita, they say. There is an effulgence. There is no distinction between Jiva, Ishvara and Jagat. Here in the Darsanamala, the first half of the work is by concentrating on how the world is related to the Absolute or Brahman. And the second half is concerning how an individual living being through his karma, jnana, bhakti, yoga and nirvana is related to the Absolute. So the first chapter, as I said earlier, takes for granted that the world is real. Then the question arises, who created this world? It says it is Parameshwara who created. This Parameshwara is not the Shiva understood in the mythological context. Parameshwara means the supreme God. How is it created? Through his imagination, as if in a dream. So what is dream? What is dreamt? As you know, is not real. And this word indicates the non-duality, where the world is unreal. Like that, every verse in the chapter, even though it takes for granted that the world is existent and is created by or was created by Parameshwara, in and through it you can see the non-dual vision. In the second chapter, what is superimposed in the first chapter is negated. It is abhavada. Abhavada means to negate. What is negated? The existence of the world is negated. The previous chapter, the existence of the world was accepted. Here, the existence of the world is negated. How? through what is called Karya Karanavada or the theory of causality. So if you follow or rely on the theory of causality, then you will see that cause alone is real. Effect has no reality of its own. It is just an appearance. And what is reality then? Causal reality in it? It is nothing but pure consciousness. I told you this work, Darsanamala, is not meant for studying the philosophy of Veda, philosophy of Narayana Guru. If you want to study properly the philosophy of Narayana Guru, you should take the text Atma-upadesha Shatakam. The non-dual reality that is perceived in the Atma-upadesha Shatakam from 10 different angles. This method of presenting Vedanta philosophy is relied on only by Narayana Guru. We never see any other Acharya or philosopher of India or anywhere else in the world relying on this method of keeping the non-dual reality at the center and taking 10 different visions of the same from different angles and then asking the student to have the non-dual vision on his own with the help of these 10 different visions. Just as we get a general idea of the shape of Notre Dame Cathedral from the pictures of it taken from different angles, here with the help of these 10 darsanas, what we get is the core of the non-dual vision that Narayana Guru intended to convey to us. Such is the nature of the work Darsanamala. The nature of Asatya Darsana is considering the world as Asatya, unreal. So in the first chapter, the world was treated as Satya. Here, the world is treated as Asatya. Then the question arises, what is Satya? What is real then? That also is answered in this chapter. Sankalpa manasoho kaschit nahi vedosti yan mana tadavidyatama prakyam indrajalam yuadbhudam. What is important in this Asatya Darsana on the one side is manas and its sankalpa. On the other side is Atma. Atma is to be seen in the place of rock in the Shivalinga. Then Manas and Sankalpa are to be seen in the place of Shivalinga. It is the Sankalpa of the sculpture that assumed that gave the form of Shivalinga to a piece of rock. Shivalinga as such has no existence of its own other than as a form assumed by the piece of rock. In this verse, we see Manas, Sankalpa, Avidya and Tamas equated. Prakyam, I think Prakyam is not to be treated as the fifth item in this verse, which word appears in the Yoga Darshana, not in the Patanjali Sutras. Prakyam simply means it is known as. Kya means to know. Kya Satjane. Prakya means Prakarshena Kya. In the proper, Kya in the proper way. Knowing in the proper way. That is all. Manas, what is Manas? What is Sankalpa? In the beginning of this chapter itself, it was said, Manomayam idam sarvam namanakvapi vidyati. Everything here in this world is manas in essential content, and this manas has no existence of its own. So it is a non-existent manas that creates this world. How? Through its sankalpa. What is manas? Manas has no existence of its own. Then what is it? What is that we call manas? It is what exists is pure consciousness alone. That consciousness will have various kinds of functions at various times. When consciousness has sankalpa for its function, then the name given to that consciousness is manas. That is why it is said manas as such and has no existence. What exists is pure consciousness alone. That consciousness, when having sankalpa for its function, the name given to that consciousness is manas. So, manas does not have an existence of its own. We know psychology is a science on the study of mind. I have asked many psychologists, even those having PhD in psychology. I have asked the question, what is mind? I have gone through the encyclopedia of psychology. the dictionary of psychology to find out what is the definition of mind given in that encyclopedia or dictionary. Even that word is not in the dictionary or encyclopedia. The word mind, you will not find a place in that encyclopedia or dictionary. No psychologist defines mind. That means psychologists deal with a subject that they do not know. Why does such a phenomenon happen? It is only because mind, as Narayana Guru says here, na manakvapi vidyate. Manas as such has no existence. Then how can you define it? Non-existent something can never be defined. Only something existent can be defined. So, manas is the name given to consciousness when it has sankalpa for its function. Here in the fifth verse, Narayana Guru says, sankalpa manaso kaschin nahi bhedosti. There is no difference between manas and sankalpa. Manas itself is sankalpa, sankalpa itself is manas. En manaha tat avidya tama prakyam. What we call manas is also known as avidya and tamas. Tamas means darkness. What is avidya? That is defined in the next chapter as a facet of Maya. What is tamas? That also is defined in the next chapter as another facet of Maya. What is avidya? Atma nasad anatma sat idi vidyotadeya saiva avidya yada rajju sarpayor aidartadrak. This is the definition given by Narayana Guru to avidya in the next chapter. What is the meaning of it? There is something in us that makes us think Atma is not real. What we see here as anatma, non-self, that is real. So the function of consciousness within us that makes us think Atma is not real, anatma is real. It is avidya. Such a function of consciousness is avidya. Yada rajju sarpayor aidartadrak. Just as you mistake a piece of rope for snake. Another point you have to keep in mind in this point is that there is a basic difference between avidya and ajnana. Avidya is the opposite of vidya. What is vidya? The English word for it is science. Then avidya it is not ignorance, it is nescience. Add ne to the word science as a prefix. Then it is pronounced nescience. That is avidya. So both vidya and avidya are two functional modes of consciousness that results in two different kinds of knowledges. One true knowledge and the other untrue knowledge. The untrue knowledge you gain through avidya, that is called ajnana. There is a basic difference between ajnana and avidya. Vidya and avidya both are means of knowledge. Science is not a proper knowledge. It is only a means of attaining knowledge. In the same way, the opposite of it, nescience, is a wrong means of knowledge that leads you to the wrong knowledge that anatma is real and atma is unreal. And the wrong knowledge you attain through avidya, that is called ajnana. Sankalpa manso kaschin nahi bhedosti. En manaha, that which we call manas. En manaha tad avidya tama prakyam. It is also known as avidya and tamas. What is avidya? I have already defined as it appears in the next chapter, Maya Darsanam. What is tamas? Tamas literally means darkness. It is also defined as a facet of Maya in the Maya Darsanam, the next chapter. Shuktigayam yadha ajnanam rajadasya tadatmani kalpidasya nidanam tattametyapagammyagade. That is called tamas. What is it? Shuktigayam yadha ajnanam. That there is an ignorance. Here it is not avidya, it is ignorance. Ajnanam. Shuktigayam yadha ajnanam. It is an ignorance that perceives a mother of pearl as silver. നമ്മിലൊരു അജ്ഞാനമുണ്ട്. ആ അജ്ഞാനമാണ് മുത്തുച്ചിപ്പിയെ വെള്ളിയായി കാണാൻ ഇടയാക്കുന്നത്. Triyayam yada jnanam rajadasya tadha atmani. In the same way, in the Atma, we see the world. One of the very, very subtle point and the very evident reality in Vedanta is that this world, what is that we see in the form of the world? We see here the world around us. What is it? Really, it is Brahman or Atman that appears here in the form of this world. So, perceiving this as the world is ajnana. Perceiving this world as Brahman is wisdom. The world is around us and I am also part of the world. What is this world? It appears here as a manifest form of Atma. So what is real in it? Atma. So what do we see here? Is it the world or is it Brahman? My question is, what do we see around us? Is it the world that we see or is it Brahman in the form of the world that we see? It is Brahman that you see, but your idea is that it is the world. That is where you are wrong. So when you see the world, what is it? Do you exist here? Do you have a being here? Yes. Is that being part of the being of the world? So my question is, do you exist? Do you really exist? Yes. Then this world also should be really existing because you are an integral part of it. Only if you exist, you can come here and sit down and learn all these things. So you exist. Then you are an integral part of this world. Then the world also exists. Then what is that really exists as you and as this world? It is Brahman, it is Atman. Oh, then what is it that you really see around you and in you? It is only Atman. So instead of perceiving Atman, you see the world around you. That is your ajnana. You should have the wisdom to see what you see as the world as Brahman. Jnanikku sattu ulagu. Narayana Guru says. For a man of wisdom, this world is really Sat, what ultimately exists. It is that ultimate existent reality that appears before you and in you as the world. So this world is merely an appearance. What really exists is Atman. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.